Hey guys, this is Dirk. Shout out to the chillers. Good luck.
Welcome back to Triple Single, part two of the off-season recap. If you did not see the last episode, we are doing a double header. We're recording these back to back, so that's why we're on the same clothes. But we are just doing the whole off-season in one go. You guys will probably see these a couple days or like a week apart. This is the Eastern Conference episode, and we are just going through talking about every team's offseason and kind of giving them a grade. Important thing to note that I did not say until later in the last episode, the grades are relative. So a rebuilding team can get an A for doing the things that they should do, and a contending team can get an A for doing the things that they should do, even if, drafting a Sar Thompson, for example, is not the same thing as trading for Kristaps Porzingis. So just keep that in mind, and yeah, we will start. We're going in order of seeding, just like last episode. So we will be starting with the Milwaukee Bucks, and I will be leading that off as the resident Bucks fan. So just to start, some of the off the court stuff. I know how much he likes doing it, but I'm very happy that Giannis decided to skip FIBA this year with Greece, and he had a procedure to clean up his knee. I think his health is pretty paramount. He's pretty much been one of the only consistently healthy pieces on this team, and I just don't want to see him get slowed down or anything. If he goes out with injury, it's kind of cooked. So, very happy with that. Speaking on health, we have a hopefully fully healthy season of Chris Middleton to look forward to. I don't think he was as bad.
Fingers crossed for that.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think he was as bad as people thought he was. I think the numbers were maybe a little bit deceptive. I think his first stint in the middle of the season when he came back from injury was pretty poor, and then he missed another, I think, like 20 games, and then he played like 20, and the last 20 that he played were actually pretty solid. And then in the playoffs he averaged like 22, 6 and 6 on pretty good splits. He's fried as a defender. We don't need to tap dance around that. But offensively he still does, I think, a lot of the things that we kind of expect from Chris Middleton. Him taking a pay cut was pretty cool and necessary so that we could bring back Brook Lopez. I'm not mad at the price for Brook Lopez. I think after the season that he had, it was pretty necessary, especially when you look at the money that guys at his position are making. I think it was pretty fair value. And now we'll get into more of the on the court stuff. We as a team I think we were the oldest or second oldest roster in the league last season, and it really showed in a lot of the late game situations. Just didn't seem like guys, had the legs to pull off some of the clutch situations that we were winning a lot of last year, and especially the year prior when we won the championship. So I liked that we prioritized youth and athleticism in this draft. Andre Jackson Jr. in particular, I love everything that I've seen from him, in interviews and stuff, as far as his mentality, and his skill set is pretty cool. Chris Livingston is cool. Jay-Z and Gortman and Amari Moore are cool. Just a lot of cool guys, on this team.
You're gonna like the weather up there.
Okay, man.
It's gonna be real cool.
Milwaukee summers are much nicer than I think you understand. Listen, they will love.
When do they play basketball?
All good, bro. All good. It's all good. It's all good.
I don't think the players stay there in the summer, man. I can't lie to you.
Okay. Okay. The Malik Beasley, you could, he has his issues with consistency and stuff, but when you look at it, for his skill set being like a high volume, relatively efficient 3-point shooter, Malik Beasley is not a minimum player in this league with his skill set. So I'm happy, getting him for the minimum is really nice, and bringing back Jay Crowder is pretty big too. He was really good in the regular season after we traded for him. If you look at the numbers and as well as like the impact and watching the games, he was very good for us in the regular season. Did not do a damn thing in the playoffs, but I think it would have been pretty embarrassing to not bring him back after the 5 second-round picks we traded for him. So that's nice. And then obviously the big thing was the departure of Coach Bud and bringing in Adrian Griffin. I will always admire Coach Bud, the person. I will always respect what he did, for the city and this franchise, but it was kind of just time. I and many other Bucks fans for a while have really wanted to see an evolution in our offense, and Bud as an adjuster always felt like a game to game thing and not really like a mid game adjustment type of thing. I think if you look back at his best runs, I think game to game he made very good adjustments as far as coverage and stuff, but in the middle of the game, it was very tiring seeing, Jay Crowder get DNPs and Jimmy Butler be played in single coverage with 6'3" Drew Holiday defending him possession to possession and just frying us. So it kind of just had to happen. It was really unfortunate timing, but I'm excited for the modern schemes that Adrian Griffin seems to kind of adhere to. He and you can see it in our draft. He really prioritizes length, defense, youth, and athleticism. So it's going to be a new look for our team, and I'm pretty happy about that. We do need to kind of figure out the backup point guard situation. Losing Javon Carter really sucks, even though he wasn't like the point guardist of point guards. He was much more of a combo guard, but we kind of need somebody else who can handle the ball in that second unit. So I think I gave it a C+. I think we're probably still like a trade or something away from really me being able to look at this roster and say that we're gonna do great things. But I mean, it's the Bucks. Like, we're gonna be damn good in the regular season, and when the playoffs come, we will rely on probably 3 or 4 people to play well. Any thoughts?
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm a little bit more pessimistic on Bucks off season. I think a lot of it is I understand the existing grievances with Budenholzer. I get it. Um, and I know that this is a thing that some teams like to do with even like a good coach or a very good coach, which I think Bud is that they'll think they'll need like a reset, like just like mentally almost like as an organization, and like moving on to a different coach is a good way to do that. That said, I still feel pretty strongly that Bud is like a top 10 coach in the association, and I really am not sure how well that Adrian Griffin is going to be able to fill those shoes. I'm sad that you guys lost Javon Carter because he's really cool. Um, the Brook thing is good. The draft picks, I mean, you did what you could, right? I think AJJ is he's nice. He's got some upside. He's got a nice little floor as well as like a dude who can play defense, get out in transition, pass a little bit. But overall, I mean, I think realistically, there's this team is probably just going to be worse than it was last season, and not a lot of that isn't in control of like the offseason moves. Like a lot of that's just, as you mentioned, oldest team in the NBA, getting older, right? Chris Middleton health, where are we at? Like, uh, Drew Holiday aging curve, where are we at? Brooke Lopez aging curve, where are we at? And I appreciate they brought back Jay Crowder and like Malik Beasley's like fine, but I've kind of wished there was like a little bit more done to like shore up some of the holes. Like when I see, and like maybe this is an unfair comparison because of the last episode we like waxed poetic about how much this team cooked. Like seeing a team with no money like the Suns be able to fill out their bench with such illustrious, comparatively anyway, bench talent on minimum contracts. Like for hey, let's be real. For like the money they paid them, like guys like KBD and like Yuta Watanabe and like and Drew Eubanks, like, those are like big names for a min, right? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
those are definitely not your average min guys, and I feel like the Bucks could have potentially gotten a lot more because there's still like pretty real question marks, like you said, in how the second unit's going to run stuff. Um, I gave it like a C to C minus because it's not like you did anything like totally stupid and troll, and it's not like losing Javon Carter is a disaster. But I think I don't know. I don't really love firing Coach Bud to this day, and I feel like you could have done more. I don't know.
Um,
Yeah, I gotta say, with regards to the Bud stuff, it feels a bit reactionary to the playoff thing, which obviously was like unfortunate, but kind of didn't really have much of anything to do with him in particular.
Yeah.
And
Outside of the
the
Jimmy thing, it was just like Giannis is hurt. Like, what are you gonna do? You
yeah,
know,
Giannis is hurt. Chris Middleton has a Chris Middleton thing. There's just like a lot going on that's not
Jimmy
really
Butler turned
related
into
to
God.
coaching.
Like, that's not really.
Yeah, like
I, I
like
I would say it's less about this series in particular, and this was more kind of just the straw that broke the camel's back.
I mean, even like last year, like you lose in 7 to the Celtics, it's like
I didn't think
that
last year
kind of
was his
just
fault.
happens. Like,
Well, I will say,
No, last year's not his fault. You don't have
I,
Chris.
I will say, some of last year was his fault, because we
I
had
don't know,
we had
man.
some pretty solid wing defenders rotting on the bench in Pat Connaughton, and Marjon Beauchamp is young and inexperienced for what he is, but he's tall and athletic and is a pretty solid
Running on the
defender.
bench in the Celtics series,
Yeah, I mean, not that
Connaughton.
I would have preferred to see that. Well, I mean, in the closing minutes, I would have preferred to
Okay.
see that as opposed to the last 6 minutes of the game. We are going to run out 36-year-old George Hill, because that was Bud's guy, and Bud has always had this thing with playing like Tibbs, like playing vets, particularly vets that he likes, like George Hill in particular was one of the most egregious ones. Any Bucks fan who watched the whole regular season last year and any playoff run where we've had George Hill, especially last year, he just didn't need to be playing, especially in the situations that he was in. It was just really embarrassing to watch, like 5-6 possessions in a row. If you go watch, I think it was game 6 in Milwaukee, where we could have closed the series, and Jason Tatum had like 40 something points and hit like 6 threes. Pretty much like most of the last quarter is he is getting the switch on George Hill and just shooting over him, or like taking him to the bucket, like shit like that. Like it's things like that that make me say Bud is a game to game adjuster and not a possession to possession adjuster, because it has always, like, it seemed very obvious that George Hill could not play in that scenario, and it's like stuff like that, that has lingered in years past, where it's just like we don't need to do this. Like,
I don't know. It just feels like one of those things where like you have such a good team and you have a guy who has a proven track record as a coach, and it just feels like one of those things that's done like to, in a way, like appease fans who are like sort of unhappy
Yeah.
with the coach.
I don't know.
Like realistically, like yeah, but do you think that like Adrian Griffin is like better coach than
I don't
Budenholzer?
I don't know. I have no idea. I
I
think
think it's
What
extremely
do you?
unlikely.
What are? Okay, well, let's say, what do you think the likelihood is of a career-long assistant, coming into this sort of situation and putting up better results? I find it
I I want
astronomically
to give
unlikely.
Bud credit for the fact that under him we have had like league best, and even in some seasons generationally good defenses, and I do not see Adrian Griffin as a first year head coach replicating that. I just think we have the personnel to do that, especially again with the more modern, philosophies that he has of like Giannis at the 5. We're going to surround him with this wing talent of guys who can, defend and shoot and stuff. Those were our best results when we won the championship, was having PJ Tucker and being able to do that, and it really seemed like the only reason that happened was because of the Dante DiVincenzo injury, kind of forcing Bud to do that, because that wasn't really something that we were doing in the regular season or in the prior series. So again, I will give Bud credit for again, you don't just like coach defenses like that. Like that doesn't just happen on accident. Consistently having defenses of that caliber. But I think we have the personnel to have very good league-wide defense, and I just think that, you know, I don't know what Adrian Griffin brings offensively yet, but I do know that Bud offensively had very stale and honestly like poor offensive fundamentals for this team. A lot of people always say they want to see Giannis more as the screener. We would see him a lot as the ball handler. Giannis out of the post, when he got injured in that Miami series, I mean, he came back on a bum tailbone and wasn't really driving like that. It was a lot of Giannis posting and trying to see what he can do, and he had a triple-double. And I don't think that's anything, I don't think that's like a random occurrence. He's always been very cerebral as a passer out of the post, and we don't typically see a lot of that, or we did not see a lot of that under Bud. And I just think stuff like that where, we have a coach who can bring more wrinkles to our offense. I think that's really all I'm hoping for, because I think we have the personnel, like I said, to have a very good defense, and in the playoffs maybe have the best defense. I just don't think Bud was getting the job done offensively for a very long time. We were one of the more inconsistent teams offensively. We would.
In which seasons specifically? Because I would disagree on that point.
I'm talking.
I think if anything, for the like several seasons before this, you guys, if anything, outperformed the offensive talent as far as
I'm talking more on like a night by night basis. Like one game, like we could have 100. I mean, you saw it in the Heat series. We looked stagnant.
Yeah, but the Heat series, like, I don't care.
Well, no,
about the Heat
I'm just
series,
using
really.
it as an example. Like in game 2, we came out and had 140 points and lit them the fuck up, and we were just hitting everything, and we were, more importantly, generating a supreme amount of threes, and we just don't really. I don't feel like we saw that enough under Bud, like getting the looks that we wanted. It was a lot.
How many games do you want them to take 53s and make 25?
I'm not saying it has to be like that. I'm just saying there are a lot of instances over our last few regular seasons where our offense on one night would be just very cold, and not just like guys making or missing shots. Like we're not generating anything. The ball movement completely stops, and it didn't. It just seemed like if we woke up that night and we had a bad habit of not moving the ball, players not moving, it would just stay that way for the whole night, and nothing would really change. So I just want to see more. I want to see more consistency in how we're running our offense, not necessarily the results, but just like on a night by night basis, we're gonna do the same things to like great effect. You know what I mean?
I don't know. No, I mean, I just disagree. Like I look at this under Budenholzer, like since he's gotten there in 2019, we have fourth best offense league wide, eighth best offense, sixth best offense, third best offense in 2022, and 12th best in 2023, a season where the second best offensive player on the team is out for damn near the whole year, and the other time he's like not playing to his standard. I don't know. It just feels very selective about certain instances where things didn't look great, and not really recognizing the big picture. But I mean, aside from the Budenholzer thing, so we can keep going with this. I think losing Javon Carter and Wesley Matthews, and even like Joe Ingles, I think replacing them with like second rounders and undrafted guys you're gonna lose a lot of production just right off the bat.
The Javon Carter one definitely stings. I mean, and Joe Ingles too. I mean, say what you want about Joe, but I mean, he was basically playing point guard for us last season.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Ingles is damn good.
And
as a role player.
I don't remember the exact numbers, so I'll just say it was highly efficient. During our bench minutes, the Joe Ingles Brook Lopez pick and roll was like one of the most efficient plays in basketball relative to its volume as far as like points per possession. So yeah, we're definitely gonna miss that, and losing Javon sucks, but I think he should have had a more prominent role on this team anyway, and that maybe would have convinced him to stay. I don't know. I just feel like a Grayson Allen trade is probably coming. I don't know if that's correct, but I think our front office probably believes that, neither of these guys put the ball on the floor the way Grayson does, but we have Malik Beasley now. AJ Green shot 40% as a rookie and is probably going to have a more prominent role now. Pat Connaughton, is not going to start the season injured this time. I think our front office probably believes we have the shooting consistency in some of these other, lower tier guys, that we can trade Grayson and go get someone who can handle the ball a little bit better. Because I think honestly that's part of Drew Holiday's deficiencies in the playoffs, is a lot to do with the fact that he is the lead guard, facilitating for everyone on the floor. He's the best perimeter defender, guarding the best player every single night, and he has to create for himself. I think that's a lot of why he just like kind of drops to the degree he does in the playoffs. So I think a trade is probably coming. I just don't know who for. We expressed a lot of interest in Colin Sexton, but I don't really think that fixes anything. I would have liked to see us get in on the Tyus Jones or the Monte Morris sweepstakes. I think DeLon Wright is probably our next best bet, but yeah, no, we just gotta wait and see how it pans out.
I feel like if you trade Grayson Allen, it just makes a lot of the already existing problems on offense worse. Like there are not many. I remember going over it with I don't think it was you, another Bucks fan friend of mine, and over the last 2 seasons, there's like a total of like 15 players in the entire NBA who have shot as many threes as Grayson on as good or better percentages. Like he's like not like an S tier sniper, but like an A tier
Mm-hmm.
kind of guy, like shooting the ball. And those don't really grow on trees next to your 6'11" like freakazoid creature that creates 3-point looks like there's like it's his job because it kind of is. Um, I don't know. I think trading him is like I really hope you guys don't do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and to
Uh,
the shooting
yeah,
point, they're like in Carter and Ingles already, like you've lost a lot of volume 3-point shooting out of
yeah.
this team. So I'm not really sure, and that's like kind of been one of the identities going back for a few years now. I don't really know that you can replace that so easily. Like I think Grayson Allen is kind of like a key here, and if you don't swap him for a guy who's like similar in production, the offense is going to look potentially like a lot more scuffed than it already does.
no, yeah, I mean, I like I said, I don't know if that's proper to do. I just think that might be the direction that we're trending in because Pat Connaughton historically is one of our best playoff performers off the bench, and I would say the last few seasons since Grayson got there, he's been better than him. I don't see us trading Bobby Portis, um, and so Grayson just feels like the next domino to fall. I agree with you though. I think my fan base in particular thinks he's a lot more replaceable than he is. He's a damn good shooter.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Bucks Twitter talking about how they should trade Grayson Allen to the Knicks for Cam Reddish, which I would
Disgusting.
have fucking.
I was
Oh man,
legit
I would have thrown a party, bro.
I was legit crying in our Discord for like a week when those rumors came in. I came in here almost every day and was like, Afro, please, or Bashir, please. I don't want Cam Reddish. Like when they were talking about Cam Reddish and Derrick Rose, I was like, hey, bro, pack it up. We lost. Yeah, Giannis is asking out. Like,
Yeah, that would
it's
have been. It's very good that you guys didn't do that because that would have been horrendous.
but
Oh man.
we can move on if you guys want.
Yeah.
We spent quite a while on this. I talk a lot about my team. It was fine. It wasn't very good or great. I think there's more to come, and I hope there's more to come. But I'm excited for what this team can look like under Adrian Griffin.
Lovely. All right, what we got next? The Boston Celtics. This is me, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
All right, so Boston Celtics made two really, really big attention drawing moves this offseason. First one was trading for Kristaps Porzingis in the deal that sent Marcus Smart to Memphis. Everyone knows about that. And the second is, of course, the 100 cajillion dollar Jaylen Brown extension. Um, I was talking to the guys earlier. I would like to present a perspective on the Jaylen Brown thing, if you would just allow me for a second.
I love perspectives.
The perspective, yes. So these are I try not to wear these. They're kind of bad for the mind. These are my Celtics fan glasses. Um, Now if you'll bear with me, I can't even see how I look. I like actually kind of need those to see, so I'll just assume it's
Yo,
fine.
are those
Listen,
prescription?
not even a little. So Jaylen Brown, second team All NBA, 27 points per game, one of the best secondary stars in the NBA, 60 million a year. It's a lot, but you'd rather give him that money than someone like, Pascal Siakam, right? Or I mean, what's the alternative? You just lose him for nothing. This is a guy you gotta pay. This is a real all-star, all NBA player. And I can't do this anymore, man. Jaylen Brown is not worth $60 million. I'm sorry. This is like I get it,
Oh man.
but I think him making second team All NBA might have been the worst thing that could have happened for the future of the Celtics in terms of like postseason awards, because usually futures aren't decided there. Um, Look, Jaylen Brown is a good player, but I really question the ability, like year in and year out, his playoff on off numbers are not what you would expect to see at all from a star or even a player who's especially good. Like this team is like perfectly functional and even great without him regularly, and it's It's tough, but I mean, it's kind of obvious why when you delve into his skill set a little more intently. He's not a great three-point shooter. He's just kind of all right. Um, his defense is still getting holdovers from that series where he kind of locked up versus the Raptors. I really don't think it's very good anymore. He really tends to overhelp almost as a rule versus like outside threats. I mean, we saw it in the Sixers series. He made two consecutive flubs that almost made like it could have been a sweep and said it was 2-2 after
He
four
he
games.
got lost off ball guarding
James
James
Harden.
Harden.
So James Harden, listen, man, listen, listen. James Harden is like my favorite player ever. That is the first time in his life, probably since like, or at least since like AAU, that he's cooked someone off the ball, right? Like
That
that's just not what he does.
that was so
That's
crazy to watch live because
I
as
wish we could pull up the
someone
clip.
as someone who not only played basketball, in a team setting growing up, and also more recently was like lightly involved in coaching players, at the high school level,
the number one rule.
bro, my dad was my coach most of my life. My dad would beat the shit out of me if I was
Oh
on
my
the
God.
court in a situation like that, and I left the strong side corner three to triple team some. Bro, that is not your help. We were in Discord watching that game. I remember we were all watching it together, and literally I said that they teach you that in AAU. They
Bro, they teach you that in AAU, they teach you that in high school, they teach you that in middle
bro,
school.
they teach you
Dude.
that at like summer runs to say, hey, don't help off that strong side corner. That's not your help. Like
No,
that was
it
so
was so
crazy.
bad.
While we're talking about
And
the money thing, sorry to interject really quick. I just
that was good.
this is unplanned. I just pulled this up right now. I was just curious what other things you could buy for $60 million. And I have a list here from the Toronto Sun. I think it's a
Oh
newspaper
my
or a
God.
magazine of some sort. You can buy Andy Warhol's Coca-Cola painting, which sold for $57.3 million. You can buy a countryside chateau in the French country that was previously owned by Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. You can buy a Ixion or a Technicon design Ixion, which is a private plane. Um, or you can pay the entirety of, I don't follow hockey, St. Louis Blues superstar Vladimir Tarasenko. You can pay his entire 8-year contract with what Jaylen Brown
Oh,
will make this year.
Something GDP of Vanuatu.
yeah.
So
No, I mean dude, and the thing is too, like you might think like or like we're just like harping on like one play, but like no, this is like kind of who Jaylen Brown is as a defender. Like he's solid, he's like above average on the ball, but I think in today's NBA, I think it matters more who you are as an off-ball defender because your man is not going to have the ball 4/5 of the time until he gets it. And it's like, I don't know, he's so mistake prone. He's so leaky. He gets cut on all the time. He misses assignments. He overhelps like it's his job. It's it's tough, man. And I really wish that the Celtics didn't do this. I think there's a universe where they can move him for someone that's just like a better fit next to their stars who has like a better shot. Has Jaylen Brown's not a great passer either. Like I feel like I'm hating almost but I really don't feel like he's doing that much to contribute to the Celtics team other than putting like yes, he scores 27 tonight. That's really cool. It's not on great efficiency. It's on a really like not necessary shot diet because he's not creating a ton of open threes. He's not getting to the rim with ease. Right. It's a lot of self creation. And when it clogs up, he kind of just like resets it. He's not using his pressure very well to create looks for his teammates. I $60 million a year for a guy like that, and I feel like the progression on him is pretty much like we are where we are. He's like what 26? Like this is generally speaking like the prime of most NBA players, and I'm I'm worried, man. I am worried. Now, the other thing, I hope I never wear these again. Um, the
yeah,
other thing, I don't need the glasses for this. Kristaps Porzingis being acquired. I actually really love KP. I think KP comes in and is easily the second best player on the Celtics. I think he's
Clean.
like a top 30, top 25 guy.
Cook.
Just had an amazing season in Washington in a much less favorable team situation than where he's going to now. Was an efficient three-level scorer, one of the better like paint protectors in the entire NBA. His rim differential numbers are great. He's got a little passing skill set. He's a good oh man, he's just really really good. Porzingis is a great player, all-star level player, easily in my mind. I'm worried anyway because this Celtics team, we saw it in the Warriors series, we saw it this year. What do the Boston Celtics lack at an elite level? There's one thing: on ball playmaking for
Yep.
others. They lack a sufficient volume creator. So they kind of do like a by committee thing where Tatum will pass and Smart will pass and Horford will pass and Jaylen Brown won't really pass, but sometimes he does. Um, and like Porzingis is like he's a good connective passer, but you're still missing like Smart was already like the best passer and like in terms of like knifing in with a dribble and like creating something. That was his role on the team and he was pretty good at it. And now they really don't have like they already kind of didn't have it and he was their best at it. Now they really don't have it. And so while the team is objectively more talented, like they've added a lot here with KP. Like again, this is a dude I think is a top 25 player in the association, but like I don't know how much better the team is. I think there's the problem then is still the problem now, just the other stuff is like better. Like now instead of sure, it's cool that now when someone gets cooked on like in pick and roll that Kristaps Porzingis is behind instead of Al Horford because Horford is not who he used to be on defense. We saw that very cleanly in the playoffs. But when you need to collapse the defense reliably, I don't think Tatum can do that for you. I don't think Brown can do that for you. I don't know if any of them can, and it's a problem, man. Like the Celtics are so good. There's a stat I looked up. I was off of Sports Info Solutions, who's Celtics were number one in the entire NBA in advantage retention last year. So when like a little advantage was created, they would keep it alive with their great connective passing, with all of their shooters, with their good off-ball movement, with their cutting, guys like Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon, like Jason Tate. Like they were so good. Once you were beat against the Celtics, they were gonna cut you up. They were like 17th in advantage creation. And that just got worse. And I am worried a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agreed on all the KP stuff. He is by most advanced metrics that like most all-in-one advanced metrics that we use now. He's like a top 20 to 25 impact league wide last season. He's crazy good on both ends right now, and he kind of fits a position of need for them with Horford aging and Rob Will being a little questionable, not quite the Rob
Yeah.
Will he used to be, and not really a great offensive player. But like you said, the problems are still there, and losing Smart kind of exacerbates the playmaking thing because now Tatum is really your best, you know, playmaker on the ball. Uh, KP, to his credit, passes the ball more than Jaylen Brown, which is a real thing. You can look that up. So I guess that's something there, but yeah, I mean, this Celtics core for basically their entire existence since the whole Kyrie Irving thing has really lacked like a dynamic point guard who can attack the basket and score. So, yeah, that's going to be an issue for them going forward. Also, they're losing Grant Williams at the same time, which definitely feels bad because he's been great for them for a couple years now.
Yeah.
And beyond that, like, yeah, KP's great, but other than that, they haven't really done anything else. Their other signings are pretty whatever, like they're not, movers. Jordan Walsh is cool, maybe he becomes a cool guy, but he's not really, you know, solving anything that they have issues with. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I really love the KP sign and trade. I think that's a great move to get one of the best players in the league for relatively low value. Um, but yeah, I mean, not much else going on here, and they've really locked themselves into this core now with the Jaylen Brown extension, and I don't know. He's like the fourth best player on this team now, like for sure. Like he was I mean, if we're gonna be honest, he was kind of arguably the fourth best player already. I'm sorry, Celtics fans, but that's the reality. But now he's almost certainly the fourth best player behind KP, Derek White, and you know, the big guy, the main guy.
Yeah.
Eric White
So
sweep. I love it.
It just feels like they've really. I like how much they've bolstered their front court. Because the last few seasons was like we can have Al at the 5 and we can play very switch heavy, or we can have Rob Will at the 5 and Tatum at the 4, or we can have Al and Horford, or Al and Rob Williams, and then after that it's like we got Luke Cornett,
Yeah.
we got
Oh,
Blake
boy.
Griffin.
I
So
mean-
they've really bolstered their front court as far as the bodies they can all have out there at the same time, and like different minutes and stuff. It just feels like it really came at the expense of this wing depth is super depleted now. This guard depth is super depleted now. Like, who's the best wing off the bench for them now? Even is it Jordan Walsh? Am I
Surely not.
Am I
right?
forgetting someone?
It's like O'Shea Brissett
I wouldn't consider him a wing.
or Sam Hauser.
That's
What is
right.
happening?
And I mean, they still have Malcolm Brogdon.
That's where we're at. Like,
We still have Malcolm Brogdon.
and I love
Mhm.
Malcolm Brogdon, but
But also, Malcolm Brogdon, I don't want to seem like I'm shitting on him just because of like the Bucks history and stuff, but like historically speaking, Malcolm Brogdon is a little bit of a emotional player as far as with the franchises he's been with and stuff. I do wonder if the temperature in the room has changed after his elbow turned to macaroni, and then they tried to trade him, and it's like now he's still here. So I don't know like what's all gonna happen this season.
I mean, I don't really
Mhm.
care about the Brogdon thing. As far as I'm concerned, he's like one of the better point guards in the league.
No,
Uh,
he's good.
And I mean, he's getting the starting role now, so
I don't think so.
shout out to him.
I think
You
Derek.
don't think he's gonna start?
I think
Who's gonna start?
I think Derek White might start.
Well, I think they're gonna start both of them.
Well, it would be no. I think you think what Horford's coming off the bench now.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna start Horford.
I don't think for a full regular season they would start that small night in night out. I think it'll probably be Horford and
Oh, I think that would be.
I think it'll probably be Horford and KP, and then Tatum, Brown, Derek White. I mean, we've seen Derek White play point guard, but I don't know. It's
Yeah,
they might be forced to start Brogdon now, but I don't know.
I feel like they kind of are forced to start Brogdon. Like, I don't know. I mean, like Brogdon's not some break down the defense kind of guy, but that the potential lineup with White and them running double bigs is really really lacking in like paint penetration and playmaking. So I don't know. I think there's a good chance that they kind of have to start Brogdon and White together, but then you're also in a situation where like your only backup is Peyton Pritchard really, and JD Davidson kind of sucks. He's like Delano Banton is Delano Banton. He can't even play in Toronto.
Honestly,
So
forgot he
it's-
was here now. Shout out to him.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of issues there. Overall, I think it's good for the like obviously getting KP is like great, like that's fantastic. But yeah, like Seth said earlier, there's still a lot of stuff that needs addressing for this core. Obviously, they're the Celtics. They're gonna be really fucking good next season. But the question is like, do they convert that into being back in the NBA Finals, potentially winning the NBA Finals? Because I mean, they're always right there, but it's just small things that really have limited them in the past from like fully taking that leap to being number one contenders year in year out.
Yeah. I know we had you penned to start the Sixers thing, but we spent a lot of time already, and to be honest, I don't think we have much to talk about with them other than it's a absolute fucking dumpster fire over there.
It's a mess is what it is. It is a mess in Philadelphia right now.
This team is, I mean, let's just be real, like this team's probably finished. I don't see if the Clippers is where Harden ends up going, and honestly, Daryl Morey might send him somewhere else out of spite now.
Daryl Morey might not send him anywhere out of spite at this point.
Yeah,
That's what it seems like might happen.
but let's just say hypothetically, the Clippers is where he's going. I don't think Joel Embiid comes into training camp and sees Norman Powell and Terrence Mann and Robert Covington getting a Gatorade on the bench and decides, yeah, you know what, actually we can really do this thing. No offense to any of those guys, but it just feels like they have tried every possible combination of fit and talent level, and like they have had some very, very good fucking teams here the last few years. You could talk about like how the Simmons Butler era with Joel didn't really fit quite as much as it should have, but that's just an overwhelming level of talent, and they didn't get out of the second round. And then things kind of blew up, and we tried running it back with Joel and Ben and a bunch of really quality role players, and that didn't really work either. And then Ben sat out, and then it was like we have this gift opportunity to fall into our lap where we traded a guy who basically looks finished, and Seth Curry and Andre Drummond, and what was it, 2 first-round picks?
Something to that effect,
1 or 2 first-round picks for James Harden, who, when you look, obviously he's not the same, but when you look from like a skill set and talent perspective, is basically the perfect fit for Joel Embiid. Like, you really can't find a player who complements him better than what James Harden does, or you'd be very hard pressed to. And it didn't work, and we went out in the second round again, and it's just I don't know what combination of players at this point gets them over the hump. And if Harden's really gone for the package that we think he's gone for, you may as well just consider that Joel Embiid's going to request a trade, and it's over. Like, it's not...
And it might be even worse, honestly, because they might not get that package, in which case James Harden is sitting on your bench, not doing anything.
Hey,
and
his ass won't show up.
Yeah,
Or-
and Joel Embiid is out there running it with Patrick Beverley in the high screen and roll, and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
He will show up to training camp with a bubble jacket under his jersey. And
Yeah, I
and-
mean,
and
it's
he
a
will
mess.
he will average 15 and 7 on 35% from the field through the first 5 games, and then be promptly traded. So
Yeah.
it's,
I know exactly what combination of players gets them there. It's Mitchell Robinson,
No.
R.J. Barrett.
you don't want this
Um,
guy, bro. Like, I'm telling you, you just don't want him.
No, you know what? I think I do. Yeah, Sixers is, dude, it's tough. Terquavion Smith's cool.
Shout out to
Ricky
Traquavion
Council,
Smith. Shout out to Traquavion Smith. That's
as
my
well
guy.
as Tubelis. We're really doing it, guys. You know that's
Ricky
they got some
Council
of
the
the
fourth.
Like, even
Yeah.
any of the people you can look at who they acquired, and it's not many. Any of the people you look at who they acquired, and you could be like, oh, I mean, this is, this might be nice soon. This might be okay in the future.
yeah,
Not-
it's Turk time, baby.
Even honestly, even if they did do good things, none of it would have mattered. And I mean, they lost George Niang.
They lost Shake Milton.
They lost Shake Milton.
They lost Jalen McDaniels.
Oh my God, yeah.
They lost Dwayne Dedman. Who the fuck cares? But I mean, those 3 guys are actually like basketball players, and it's like
It's just finished.
losing. Yeah,
It's
not looking
finished.
good. And Tobias Harris, who's we can talk about how overpaid he is, whatever like that, but the guy comes in and out every season, does the same shit, no matter his role, whether he's the second option, the third option, fourth option. He's efficient. He plays defense, and he plays well in the playoffs, and he's done that every single year that he's been in Philadelphia. And now you have his dad coming out and talking shit about the Sixers organization, saying, yo, this is bullshit. Why is my son in these nonsense-ass roles in this dog shit org? It's crazy, because this
Just
guy
cannot
doesn't
win anything.
I'm
He's
inclined to
been
agree.
screwed over for years and never complains at all. And now his camp is coming out and saying, "Yeah, like, yo, the Sixers are on some bullshit." It's a mess in Philly right now, and it doesn't look to be getting any better anytime soon.
No, it's done. The process is done. It sucks, but
Oh, I'm so obsessed with it. Oh man, you already know.
all right. Let's move
It's-
on to a
it's so
good
funny.
team, or a team that might be good next season.
No, we're doing the Knicks after. This is someone else first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland Cavaliers.
Hey,
Man.
there you go.
I love the amount of shooting that they added in Max Strus and George Niang. It still just feels like their wing core all do one thing and not the other. Like, they have Isaac Okoro, who's a really sick defender, and he can't shoot. And now they have Max Strus and George Niang, who can shoot but really can't defend. And Karis LeVert, honestly, his defense, I think, is a little underrated now, especially this past season. Has really stepped it up, and I don't want to call him a wing stopper, but has become like a pretty I would say bare minimum average to like above average, wing defender. The problem with him is that he's pretty efficient on spot up threes. He just I don't think he knows that he's Karis LeVert, and that he can't do some of the things that he tries to do. And he's very inconsistent as far as his like self creation, and I think his role is smaller than what he would want it to be, and he kind of just does too much sometimes. So they still kind of have to figure out the wing position. The front court is log jammed pretty severely with the Mobley and Allen thing, and that doesn't seem like that's going to clear up anytime soon. I don't know. I mean, Amani Bates at 49 after the summer league that he had looked like really good value, but they feel kind of they just feel kind of stuck. Like I don't know
Yeah,
what
this
they
is
do
going to
at
be
this
the
point.
same team.
Because Jarrett Allen is damn good, but it's kind of like what we talked about last episode with the Karl Anthony Towns thing. I don't think you trade Darius Garland for anything. I don't think you trade Donovan Mitchell for anything. I certainly don't think you trade Evan Mobley for anything. But Jarrett Allen doesn't feel like he should be traded either, but he's also the only thing where you can maybe convince yourself we can trade him and run Evan Mobley at center, which maybe has his own issues.
Oh, I have some words to say.
He can't. He can't
Evan
rebound.
Mobley at
He
center.
can't rebound at the
He
5.
can't rebound, and he's just a worse rim protector than Jarrett
Right.
Allen is. Especially if you're considering making him the full-time anchor, that's not going to work.
So
I'm sorry, Cavs fans, not happening.
So trading Jarrett Allen poses problems in itself, but it's like the Karl Anthony Towns thing. He's like the only thing of value on the roster that you feel like you can convince yourself to part ways with, and also will get you, some comparable value. But I don't know. It's tough.
It's tough, man. It's so tough. I think they're going to have a very similar season to last year. I think they're going to be really successful in the regular season. Last year they had the second best net rating in all of basketball, something like that. They were very high, and then the playoffs came and they were just really easily exploited because they basically only had 4 players out there at all times, and those 4 players are really good. I think I have all of them in the top 50, but you still need a fifth guy, and they still don't have the fifth guy. So I feel like they're going to have really cool regular season success, and then when it comes to game planning against them in the playoffs, it's going to be really easy because it's like, all right, Isaac Okoro, do it, man, do it, and he's not going to be able to do it.
It
Most
did not
likely.
help
And
that the lights were brighter than expected.
yeah, I mean that's just a Tom Thibodeau difference, as it were. But
Yeah,
beyond that,
that's another thing, man. I don't know if I believe in JB Bickerstaff as a
Bickerstaff, dude,
long-term
he
solution for
finished
this
like
team.
third or fourth in Coach of the Year, and I really don't see it. Honestly, I think it's just because they were better than expected. Um, but man, I don't know. I love Darius Garland. I think he's so good. Evan Mobley is well on his way. Donovan Mitchell's Donovan Mitchell. Even Jared Allen's really good, but it's until you have a fifth starter where you're like reliably saying like this guy can play defense, he can shoot threes, like he is not useless on either side of the ball. We can be confident in that with or without the ball, on or off of it on defense. Like until you have that, I don't think those 4 players, as good as they are, I don't think they're talented enough to just brute force better constructed teams.
I gotta say, Cavs didn't really do much to move me, but I don't really hate it, honestly. Like, this is the first year that they have with this core 4 of guys, and they had the second best net rating in the league, like you talked about. Honestly, they underperformed their metrics by a pretty significant margin in the win column. This is a damn good fucking team, and
No, they are.
they only had 1 season together. I think, like
They
we
just
all
need the
know,
one piece.
yeah, they are that one piece away, but I mean, this is like pretty, solid work. Like Strus is obviously like he's not some great player, but he's like he can play. I mean, he can play better than Danny Green or Chetty Osman or whoever they were trotting out there trying to guard Jalen Brunson. I mean, Niang, he's playable. He's better than what they had. Like their bench was horrid last season. Like they did not have anybody there, and now they got like 2 guys there, which is like all right.
By definition, they got better. I just don't know if it's enough.
Right, and I mean the Okoro thing, like he's been a non-shooter for most of his career at this point, but he did have a really good stretch last season. Like last 3
It was
months
like
of last
January
season.
to March or something.
Yeah, the last 3 months of last season, January to March, which is about just a hair under like 30 games. I think it's like 29 games or not 30, 40 games. It's like 39 games or something. He shot like 45% from three over
Mhm.
those 3 months. Like
Hmm.
he's capable of hitting threes, and he's definitely a good defender. I like there's something there if he can figure it out. And I mean, I don't know. Like, I think it would be a pretty big mistake for them to, like, this offseason move Allen for a wing or something, especially given Mobley's deficiencies and, the fact that he really can't play center as it is right now. Because as we saw, I mean, not even just a playoff thing, but for the entire regular season, they were one of the worst rebounding teams in the league, despite having Allen and Mobley. And Allen is the better rebounder, and they got killed on the glass in the playoffs, which is what sent them home in 5 games. So I think it would be a pretty big mistake to, trade him for a wing and just have Mobley at center, which is pretty much guaranteed to offer worse results than what they already had, especially considering they have Donovan Mitchell's contract running out soon, and he has to make a decision about whether he's gonna extend or leave or what's going on with that. This team needs results like this season. Like they can't just, kind of do a soft reset and try something new. Like they need to win games, like a lot of games if they want to keep this core together.
Yeah.
So, I
I think they
mean,
will. I think they
taking
will.
all
I think that's a
yeah, I
50-win
think
team.
they will too.
I
Taking
mean,
all that into account, I don't really hate them not doing a ton. And I think the auxiliary moves are good enough that they get like a decent grade for me.
all right.
Oh man.
So I basically made you guys AFK and listen to my Bucks rant for that. So I know the Knicks didn't do a ton of stuff. So I am going to set a timer for 5 minutes, and I'm gonna walk away from my computer. And you guys, this is your time to do what you do best and talk about what you love. And I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. Okay.
All
Hi,
right.
Connor.
Oh, also Dante DiVincenzo is really fucking good.
Dude, Dante DiVincenzo's so good. I'm so glad we got him from his shit team, bro. Oh my God. Uh, no, dude. I mean, but that's the thing. We didn't really do anything aside from that, but that's like such a big move. Honestly, I kind of don't care. Like he's
Yeah.
really, really, really good. Like I think the improvement he made last season kind of went under the radar because he was on the bench, but he became suddenly like a brilliant bench player. Like he was like
Yep.
just about
Absolutely.
40% from three. He was like perfectly fine at the rim for a guard. We're talking like a well above average defender, ball chaser, like screen
A
navigator, like
great rebounder for his position too.
that too. Like, dude, man, he is so here. And like I love it. It's a good culture fit. I think in general
The
our
Nova Boys, baby.
oh fuck yeah, dude. The thing is too, like yeah, we were just a bit thin at like the second bench guard spot, and now we're fine. Now we're great. We love it.
Yeah.
It's dude, it's so nice, and like the rest of the pickups don't really matter that much. Like I hope that Jalen Martin and Jacob Toppin can turn it to stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't, but I mean like Josh Hart has been re-signed. That's great.
Yep.
And you know what? That's really all we needed. All we lost was sure, Obi Toppin has like some cool off-ball moments now and again, but I wasn't really crying over that one. Derrick Rose is
Finished.
he's on the way out. Realistically,
Yeah.
Trevor Keels was never really on the way in, and it's I think this team just got outright better. The youngest team to make the playoffs last year just acquired a big piece who himself is not especially old. We're so back. We're
Yeah.
so back.
For me, this is kind of like the Cavs thing, where like we didn't really do much, but just one small move, and like it's great. Like we have a good team as it is, and getting DiVincenzo for a really damn good deal for who
Oh
he
yeah,
is great. I love that. I know our fan base is like, really mad about the Obi Toppin thing and like fire Tibbs and
man.
blah blah blah. Reality is Obi Toppin's not a very good NBA player. Especially he's especially not a good, role player, playing behind an all NBA guy. He
Mhm.
he's not a good 3-point shooter. He's not a good defender. He's not a good rebounder. He doesn't really do any of the things that you would want a guy in that, eighth man, ninth man spot to be able to do.
Yeah.
Like he can get out in transition and run and dunk the ball. Really cool. He's really cool when he dunks the ball. But I mean, beyond that, we're not losing a ton there as far as production. Dante rebounds the basketball. Like he's 6'4", he's a better rebounder than Obi Toppin. He shoots
Ugh.
the three. He has actually sick range. Like as far as role players in the league go, like he shoots as deep as anybody else. He's a connective guy. He can defend. He does all the role player stuff that you want him to do, and he's a culture
He's
guy.
just a good basketball player, man. See,
Yeah,
no, we did more than the Cavs. If the Cavs got the Dante DiVincenzo wings, they would be fucking
yeah,
cooking right
that's
now,
true.
but they
Yeah,
didn't.
that's true.
They got
Very
they got
true.
the Max Strus of Max Struses, and that's cool, I guess. But no,
Yeah, and I
I'm
mean,
feeling really good about this team. This is the most talented Knicks team in a while, obviously, and just got more
yeah,
talented, and they're
in
still
about
young.
10 years, it's been 10 years since we've had a team that was this
Uh,
talented. Probably
Probably they're probably better than those guys, man. I don't know. Outside of the
at,
first
at,
guy,
at least 10 years then.
yeah. Oh man, it's a good time to be a
Yeah.
Knicks fan. Very rare, very rare. Make sure to bookmark this and send it to me when we go 37 and 45. Um,
Yeah, and I mean Josh Hart extension too, like that rules. Like
yeah,
he's a premier role player and literally like completely changed the dynamic of this team for those 25
yeah.
games and in the
It's
playoffs.
just about the progression, the fit, the Rowan. I hope
Yeah,
he's doing all right over there.
that's the big thing. And I mean, obviously like and me and Seth talked about this a lot like I'm not a big RJ Barrett guy. He's pretty not good at a lot of basketball stuff. Um, he's not a good shooter. He's not a good finisher. He's not a good defender. He's not a good. He's actually a bad passer and playmaker. Um, and the one thing that he is good at, which is sort of driving with his head down and finishing at the rim, he's kind of average at really. So
Are we talking about RJ
um,
Barrett?
Yeah,
I'm touching on RJ Barrett because it's to kind of talk about my mindset going into this offseason. I really felt like he needed to be moved for well, there was quite a list of players that I had, but probably number one on that list being Zach LaVine, who is still available, but we're certainly not going to get at this point. It appears to be mostly a run back for us. But beyond that, like I can't, I really like it. You hope that RJ becomes what people think he can, because if he does that, we'd be contenders. But I mean, we got Jalen Brunson, we have Julius Randle, our team is damn good, and we just got a really good player and didn't really lose anyone of note. So I can't be mad at anything.
So I know you guys really
hell yeah.
we're not really on our phones during these, but I was on Twitter a little bit while I was waiting downstairs. I don't know if you guys saw some really earth-shattering stuff that might change actually one of our grades from the Western Conference episode. It is rumored that Blake Griffin might be going to the Warriors for a Chris Paul reunion. So I don't know if
Oh
that's
God.
moving you guys or changing your grades for them, but we might have to re-record that entire 2-hour episode and re-talk about the Warriors because it's a little different now.
The one thing I'll say about that is the Warriors might be even funnier than I thought they would be, because
Oh my
that
God.
would be hilarious.
Blake Griffin will fight Draymond
That
for Chris
that would
Paul.
be very, very funny. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's probably about it for the Knicks. Like, we didn't do a ton, but I like what we did.
Let's talk about a fun League Pass team. Bashir, this is your intro here.
Oh yes, this would happen to be the Brooklyn Nets,
Yes, sir.
crosstown
Boy.
rivals, as it were.
Rivals.
Man, don't cut it out with that.
Rivals.
As it were. Yeah, I mean, it's mostly the same team. I mean, aside from the draft stuff, which is really cool. Derek Whitehead, Noah Clowney, um, Jalen Wilson. I think for those pick spots, they did really well.
Yeah, I mean, we talked
Whitehead and
about it.
Clowney especially are
Sorry,
great.
sorry to interrupt. We talked about it in the draft prospect video. I mean, obviously his stock has fallen quite a bit, but at one point, Derek Whitehead was maybe the best American prospect in this draft
Yeah.
class a few years ago. So getting him at 22 is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, Lonnie Walker, he's a whatever guy. He's Lonnie Walker. He's all right. He does wing stuff. Um, Dennis Smith Jr. We got a short about this guy.
Watch the
He
shorts. The shorts
he
are fire.
he is a people might not know this. He is a premier defender in this league. Like he is one of the best guard defenders that we have in our game right now. Watch some tape. He's really cool, and I think for this team specifically, he's a great pickup.
Mm-hmm.
Re-signing Cameron Johnson, Cameron Johnson's a good player, and they got him probably about a market value, I would say, was that deal. Other than that, not a ton going on here for the Nets. I mean, they're kind of in a sort of hangover phase in wake of losing the big three, or the last two remaining members of the big three last season,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of converting over to this Mikal Bridges led group that I guess you kind of hope maybe they gain a star somewhere, whether it's drafted or free agency or whatever. But I don't know. I think they could be cool. Obviously, like they're not really going to compete for anything. They're probably going to be fighting for a play-in spot, most likely. But I mean, they're a cool team. They got some cool guys to watch. The draftees, especially. Mikhail's been fun since he got to Brooklyn. Obviously, like he's not a real number one guy, but he's
Mm-hmm.
a good number two. Uh, Cam Johnson is a solid player. They've got some cool guys over there. Cam Thomas, everyone gasses up the 340 bombs in a row, which was like fun, I guess. He's really not that good, but he could be good. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff to look out for in Brooklyn, even if it might not be everything they ever wanted after the disaster, but
The incident.
yeah, it's cool enough over there.
I think they will be fun. That's why I refer to them as a League Pass team. I'm not going to watch all their games, but I think if there's not a lot else on, I will be very comfortable and happy with watching some Brooklyn Nets basketball. Especially if Mikal Bridges as a first option is real the way it was after the trade deadline last year. Like, what did he average? Like 26, 27
26
points a
and
game?
a half, I
Like,
think.
on pretty good efficiency. Like, he's really taken a lot of strides as a self-creator. And I mean, he's always had the IQ to be like a pretty serviceable passer. So I think they're gonna be fun. I don't think they're gonna be particularly good, like you said, but I mean, I think with everything that has happened, I think there's some value in the fact that they traded everything away, and what they're left with is not like the worst team in the league. Like they have some pretty cool guys who have shown promise. Maybe a little expensive for Cam Johnson in my opinion, but it's not like the end of the world. The money had to go somewhere.
I don't know. I think it's fine for him. I think he's really quite good.
No,
And
he's
especially
he's nice, man. He's nice.
like I think he's worth the money. I think it's a good contract.
I would just like them to maybe figure out the point guard situation a little bit better at some point. Like,
Yeah, the whole Spencer Dinwiddie thing is kind of
You guys aren't members of the church, not card carriers.
Bro,
Oh my God.
like,
I can't
certainly
believe it.
not a card carrying
he's
member. I can tell you
cool.
that.
And the one person we haven't mentioned, it'll be fun to see. We've already seen exponential growth from Nick Claxton.
Yeah, I didn't even mention him. but
His
Claxton's
first few
like, he's playing
seasons in the
great.
league, he was just like, yeah, this guy's a cool backup, and you probably don't want him to be starting, but like he's fine. He was damn near the defensive player of the year last year.
Yeah.
He was leading at one point, and most of the season he was like third. I think his growth is going to be exciting, particularly if Spencer Dinwiddie ever figures out how to throw a fucking lob to him. I think he would be really cool. But yeah, I would just like to, I think that's one of the areas where they could acquire some more young talent to grow with is at the lead guard position. That's like my only real thing for them. Other than that, I give it a B. They're cool. You got anything to add, Seth, or are we onto the Heat now?
No, I think you guys mostly covered. I really don't have much to say about this team other than I will enjoy watching them, and I don't have many expectations for them. Their plans are really tied, obviously, with the whole pick situation, but
Yeah.
I think they're doing what they can.
Yeah, that's
I
that's
think
really all
I
I
like
would
both
say.
picks.
That's really all I would say is if you're gonna watch them, just don't have many expectations.
Yeah,
I think
not for
they're
sure.
fun for that.
All right, the reigning Eastern Conference play-in and also overall champions somehow,
So
the Miami Heat.
I withheld a grade for them currently, for the same reason that I withheld a grade for the Clippers, because we really don't know what this team is gonna look like. At the end of the day, they did lose. I mean, you can say what you want about Gabe Vincent in particular, but also Max Strus, going to their new teams. But those were two guys who were contributing pretty heavily for them last season and this season, particularly in the playoffs. So I don't know. I mean, to me, until this trade happens, I think they're just going to be the same Miami Heat. They always seem to pull 10 undrafted guys out of their ass who are just like randomly NBA players, and that's no disrespect to those guys. It's more
They
like
do have a few more undrafted guys down there. They did not skimp on that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There was some improvement. I mean, they got Josh Richardson back, which is cool. He's probably one of the better perimeter defenders that they'll have now. If he can, find that consistency in his jump shot again that he's had, the last season or so, he'll be cool. Thomas Bryant, for all the problems that he has, is a better backup center than Cody Zeller and Kevin Love. Um, Jaime Jaquez is cool. He has a very unique skill set, but I mean he's a rookie, so you can't really expect a ton from him. I don't know. I mean, I think they're just going to be the same Heat where they are pretty mediocre in the regular season, and everyone is like, "Oh, damn, they suck. They need to do something," and then they will squeak into the playoffs and just do something crazy. So it's not. I don't know. It's tough, like I said, because this team could look completely different right before the season starts, or 20 games in. The Blazers have said that they're pretty reluctant to move Dame for a package that they don't think is optimal, and the Heat certainly don't have that. So we'll see what happens, but I don't know. I don't really have a lot to say about them pending the Damian Lillard trade because like they didn't do a ton. If that happens, this team looks completely different and is really, really crazy. Because Damian Lillard has never played with a player of Jimmy Butler's caliber before, and could you argue Bam Adebayo? It might be like the closest thing might be like LaMarcus Aldridge.
It's hard. I don't know. Yeah, uh, I think they reached on the Hawkins pick for what it's worth, but that's
A
like really
little.
the only analysis to have. It's a Dame thing. The thing is, I think it makes him a very good team. I don't think I would be comfortable calling them the East favorites by any means, just because I really don't like what happened last season aside. I don't view the Miami Heat as a premier talent right now with their roster, and like it's it's a weird thing, man. I think it's just a it's just a wait and see. I think they would obviously be better if the trade was made just because the proposed package is kind of not especially hefty and uh
It's like Tyler
no,
Hero,
I
Kyle Lowry, and some shit.
some stuff.
Like,
Yeah, it's and like Hawkes or whatever. I don't know.
mm,
I think I think after last like this most recent year and the one before that, there's like a lot of expectations on the Heat for being like these just like forever guys who play way better than you think they should. And like I think that'll be true to an extent, but I don't know. I don't see it again this year unless the guy goes to the place. And then it's all out the window. So
Yeah, I mean, if I believe I'm correct on this, but I think the Heat were the only team that made the playoffs who got outscored on average on the year.
correct.
I would
Only
believe
team
that.
in NBA history to get scored and make it to the finals, by the way.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Like you can say what you want about Jimmy Butler, but he wasn't really that great outside of the first round. Um, and I mean, yeah, a lot of the stuff is really reliant um, on the Dame thing, like we said. Other than that, they're mostly the same team. Struess and Vincent, like they were big contributors for them. They're not really that good, like as players. So I mean.
Duncan Robinson's like kind of back, so that's cool.
Yeah, he played pretty well down the stretch in the playoffs. Like so, I mean,
To
they
me,
got
to
that going for
me, to
them.
me, it's less about this group in particular and more about the organization's history and just like overperforming. Because I mean, Pat Riley has always been the guy like we're not going to tank, or if we do, we're going to compete no matter what. Like we don't believe in, losing as an organization. And so I mean, it maybe less about this team in particular, although there's certainly evidence of that here. But also just like you go back a couple of years where the Tyler Johnson, Hassan Whiteside Heat really supposed to be like that? No, probably not. But they were, to the extent that they made it. So it's I don't know. I mean, we came into last season thinking, well, they just lost PJ Tucker and did not get anything, and now Jimmy Butler is playing the four, and there's really not a lot there, and they're probably going to be bad, and they made the finals. So it's just obviously you look at this season and you're like, damn, well they just lost stuff and they didn't replace much of it, but I think they are always going to have the ability to overperform. It's just a matter of if they will, and like you said,
Yeah,
if
that's true.
if
Although
if
I
the
gotta
rapper
say,
guy if the rapper guy goes there, then it's pretty much
I gotta say the extent to which they overperformed last season is drastically more than they had ever overperformed in previous seasons.
yeah.
Like they had the 21st highest net rating league wide and made the NBA Finals. That's not a thing
No.
that happens. Like they can't just play the same way they played last regular season and expect to be a competitive team. That's like not gonna happen at all.
Hmm.
So yeah, the Dame thing is kind of a make or break thing for this team, really. If they don't get him, like they'll probably make the playoffs again, but I really don't see them competing for much of anything. And yeah, blah blah blah. They beat us in the playoffs. I don't really care. Like they were not like that for pretty much the entirety of last season.
You
And
gonna cry?
Oh my God.
yeah, man. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on Miami.
Well, speaking of mid
Well,
teams that aren't going to compete for much, Seth, take it away.
fuck yeah. All right. This brings me a little bit of pleasure because I lived in Atlanta for 6 years. I went to some Hawks games. They were all right. Um, anyway, so Hawks thing. Uh, another team didn't do a ton. They did have a few picks in the draft that were interesting, most notably Kobe Buffkin, who I kind of like is just like a do-it-all guard. He defends well. He's a nice little off-ball scorer. He's not like this huge handler like creation machine, but they don't really need that. Obviously, they've got the one guy, the short one. Um, Seth Lundy is a nice little pickup. Mo Gay, just like solid value in the later rounds. They got Wesley Matthews. Didn't really lose anyone of note either, except for uh John Collins for Rudy Gay in a second. That is probably going to define their offseason going forward. I don't love the trade. I don't hate it either. Like I understand they want to move on from him because he's just so on a downturn lately. And like if you don't want to eat all that money, then sure, whatever. Like maybe they've got plans for it. I hope the plans don't just involve sitting on this massive DeJounte Murray extension because I've talked about it at length. This will be my first time mentioning it on the pod. I'm actually a really big believer in Trey Young and his ability to run top five offense pretty much just like by himself with the guys who like don't get in his way and play well off of him and can shoot and cut well. DeJounte Murray doesn't play well off of him and doesn't really shoot or cut well. And that's we're talking about like a problem here when that's your second best player next to your best player. And if I could just pull it up real quick, uh, I understand that it's like just part of it is an asset retention thing. You know what I mean? Like they can't just not pay DeJounte because they kind of traded a lot for him. I didn't love it at the time either, but I think it's saying volumes when your two best players are sharing the floor. You have 117 offensive rating, and then when one of them, DeJounte, goes to the bench, that number goes up by like 3 points. It's 119.5. Then within when it's Trey out there and DeJounte is on the bench, and like a pretty decent sample, about 1,000 minutes. I I don't want to judge their offseason too much through the lens of the DeJounte Murray extension, but it's kind of the biggest move they made, and they're committing to this pairing that I really am not sure is destined to work out long term. It's I didn't love DeJounte going here the first place out of San Antonio, and now that I see this is what he looks like next to another star, where the three still hasn't really come along very much. His defense looks significantly worse than it does last year. Honestly, like his point of attack coverage, it's I don't know, dude. Like we saw it in the playoffs, and Trey was like busting his ass trying to get his team to score on the Celtics, and they were doing a great job. Like I think the last four games of the series, the Hawks had an offensive rating well in the 120s. Like so Trey can like do his stuff. It's just can DeJounte play well off of him and like lock in on defense because he used to be a very good defender, I think, and it's just I didn't see a player last season that was worth the contract, the call they gave him, and not one that's worth the contract that they just gave him either. Like it's tough. You know what I mean?
That
No, definitely not.
Go
And I
ahead.
mean, the the issues that this Hawks core have had, aside from their great run in 2021, it's always been about the sort of auxiliary stuff that they have around Shrey, and generally speaking, not really about him at least as far as the metrics and X's and O's are concerned. And I agree with you on the Murray thing. The fit's been pretty bad uh, to this point, and short of one of these two guys suddenly becoming some sort of off balls of savant, preferably Dejounte Murray, considering he's significantly worse on the ball. Um, there's really not much to this pairing that seems like it's gonna be doing anything significant in the future, and they've been really stuck on the rest of this core, namely DeAndre Hunter, um, Clint Capella, who has been good for them on and off for the most part. Uh, John Collins has gotten worse every year for the last like 4 seasons, and now he's out of there. Bogdan, he has his issues defensively. This core, it has had so many problems, and they're kind of just sticking to it, really. Like, aside from Buffkin, who they drafted, he's honestly, given, their history, he's probably not going to get a ton of time, especially,
They're gonna limit him so much.
yeah, especially AJ Griffin being a sophomore now, and, Jalen Johnson probably getting more run, and, you know, there's really not a ton of room for him here. It looks like more or less the same team for the most part.
Dude,
Like they get Patty Mills, they get Wesley Matthews, but it's not really
they're just
anything
vets. I'm
big.
not looking at either of those guys to come in and like really do anything
Yeah, and
meaningful.
otherwise it's the same team more or less. And this team was a good offensive team for what it's worth, but pretty pretty bad on the other end of the ball. And their two stars really don't work well together, and a lot of that, at least for me, a lot of that early on in the season. I feel like Nate McMillan didn't do a great job of trying to integrate both those guys. But I mean, Quinn Snyder came in and it was more of the same stuff. So you kind of hope that this offseason they really look into figuring out how to make those two guys work, because now that DeJounte's extended, you kind of have to make it work. You really don't have a
yeah.
choice.
And go ahead.
No, no, no.
I just want to say something. I want to say it to one person in particular, Mr. Landry Fields. Um, uh, we know who you are, and we know what you did. Um, I'm gonna light you the fuck up for this John Collins thing, man. This was some of the grossest mismanagement of assets I have seen in quite some time. because John Collins has been on the block for maybe 3 seasons. He has expressed he does not want to be there. The front office has expressed they do not want him there. The fit has, not been great for a couple of seasons now, and the performance has just gradually declined at an exponential rate. It has been very obvious for quite some time that not only should you move him, but you should move him now. And you're not going to get the package that you think you should, but you need to get something. And you know what? I'm happy they didn't, and I say that because I hope they learned their lesson now, because you just traded a guy who at one point maybe could have got you something back, and, maybe some draft equity to replenish the fucking 8 million picks that you spent on DeJounte Murray in that nice Drew Holiday type package that the Spurs said they wanted. You just traded him for Rudy Gay, who you waived, and a second-round pick. That is disgusting. There's no other word for it. It's terrible. It has single-handedly capped this team in a way that is just so detrimental. And don't get me wrong, the DeJounte stuff, obviously is pretty bad too. But I mean, the John Collins contract has been ruining the cap for this team for the last 2 seasons now at least. And now you didn't even get anything for that. And you finally decided to trade him just so you can duck the second apron, because you gave DeJounte this nasty extension, which you had to give him because you traded a mountain of assets for him, and you extended DeAndre Hunter, who has not looked like the player that they wanted him to be at all. Don't get me wrong, he's taken some very nice strides as far as his self-creation, but it's a lot of bink bink, one dribble mid-range pull-up, and he's not the type of player that they thought he was when they drafted him, of this prototypical, big 3-and-D type wing who you want next to Trae Young.
They really wanted Paul George, man.
He's gotten better at some things, but he's also regressed in the stuff that they actually needed him to be good at. And he's making all this money. And Clint Capella is making a lot of money and is a declining asset and is eating up Onyeka Okongwu's minutes. And it's really just a big mess over there, and I think that they should be very, very conscious of the fact that this did not need to happen, and it did because they egoed the John Collins trade 2 seasons ago.
Is it not so crazy how such a middling team has this level of logjam at every position imaginable?
Right? Who?
How does an 8 seed just oh, should we draft a center? Nah, I mean, we got Clint, and then we got Onyeka behind him, and he needs to come in. Oh, we draft a point guard, bro. We got Trey, and then we have DeJounte. What are we gonna do? Let's get a wing, dude. DeAndre Hunter, and then we just took AJ Griffin, and all that for what? The team is not good, and it's just so tough. It's always so tough. Oh, if only they had a 6'7" shooter, preferably one with red hair, to at least play well off of Trae Young. But even that's gone now, man. It's
And even
just
then, it wasn't good.
How
Herter doesn't change anything for this team.
I mean, hey, when he was there, the offense was a lot better than it is now.
How do you trade Kevin Herter to avoid the salary and not trade John Collins? I don't understand.
It's just so tough, man. I don't know what they do. I feel so bad. Trae Young, so much has been made about him being a coach killer or whatever. He deserves better. That dude will just he is such an engine for that offense. They are so good when he is on the court and so not good when he isn't. That's been the trend for 4 seasons now. They need him to do his thing, and he does his thing, and they're still mid because they can't really surround him with pieces that can prop it all up. It's hard, man. I wouldn't be surprised if he asks out sooner rather than later. Because, dude, if I'm Trae Young, I just led us to the second best offense in the NBA in 21-22 with those guys, and this is the thanks I get. I'm dude, what the fuck? Oh my God!
It's nasty. It's just nasty.
It's not a good look right now, and it doesn't really seem like that's gonna change for the foreseeable future. Hunter's locked into this big deal. And I mean, I don't know. Capella's locked in for another couple more years. it
They
just
need a
seems like
youth movement,
they're
bro. They need
locked
to get
into
rid of
this
all
team
these.
that's just mid, like very,
Just
very
just
mid.
unlock it, man. They don't need these guys. You don't need Clint Capella. Nyeka Okongwu's waiting in the wings, and he might just end up being better in like a year. You don't need. Listen, man. DeAndre Hunter is not like that. Honestly, to be holding on to him, to be saying like AJ Griffin, you deserve 11 minutes a night because DeAndre got to get his little thing off. Like it's, and then Kobe Buffkin's gonna get 3 minutes because AJ Griffin needs his 11. Like it's, dude, it's not tenable. Oh man, no, it's such a frustrating team. They could have been so much more.
Yeah. Oh man. Well,
Oh,
speaking of aging cores and mismanagement of assets, Bashiri, take it away with the men of the North.
Ah, yes.
well, these guys. Oh no, not the. Oh man, can I do the thing you did where you just like left?
Yeah, if you feel so inclined. I mean,
Yeah, I
Man,
mean,
I need a water. I,
no, you're about to take your leave.
this
no, go ahead.
what do I even say about the Toronto Raptors, man? I mean, uh, you know, I don't even know where to start. Okay,
They
so
finally did it, kind of.
draft, they got Grady Dick. Cool, we talked about him. He's cool. That's nice for them. Uh, things that happened with the Toronto Raptors. They lost Fred VanVleet, who was pretty bad last season, so that's fine. They didn't max Fred VanVleet. That's good, I guess, but you still lost him for nothing. So that's also bad at the same time. Pascal Siakam, are they going to trade him? Are they going to extend him? Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Who the fuck knows? Because the Toronto Raptors don't seem to know. Neither does Pascal Siakam because he said he won't re-sign anywhere except Toronto, which is hilarious.
It's sorry that's he said that he will not extend with a team that trades for him, but that's because he wants the opportunity, I think, to enter free agency.
Right.
So that's not saying that he won't leave Toronto. He's just saying anywhere he goes, he will at least test the market first before he re-signs with them.
Effectively, effectively, it puts them like they're not going to trade him now that he said that, or nobody's going to trade for him now that he said that.
Yeah.
Right. Because obviously, a team trading a package for Pascal Siakam would want to re-sign him, hopefully, or they have to let him go for cheap now, which stinks. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. This team's mid as hell. They got Dennis Schroeder, who had a cool season on the Lakers, which was all right. Jalen McDaniels, another 6'9" wing. Hurrah. I mean, I don't know. They really seem like they're kind of spinning their wheels here in Toronto right now, and it's kind of going nowhere fast. They somehow have even less point guard play than they already did, which is hilarious. Yeah, I don't know. It's not a great look in Toronto right about now.
Bro, this team is so fucking funny. Oh my God. Like the thing is too, like we kind of saw what was going on this season, right? Like before the deadline, it's like, all right, man, you guys are bad. You have like no shooting. Fred's gonna probably did. Like Pascal might be on the way out. Like all your guys don't really like you. You should like just trade them, honestly. Get like what you need right now from them before they leave for nothing. And you know what they did? They traded their first protected for Jakob Pertl, who is like a below average starting center at this point in his career. I'm sorry, the defensive metrics do not love him like they used to. There's a reason for that. Um, Fred leaves for nothing. You got nothing off of that. Um, at the deadline, they learned the value of their players, which is a good way of saying that no one wanted to trade with him because Masai is like a freak, and everyone talks about you can't fleece the fleecer, and he has fleeced himself because Fred VanVleet has left for nothing. They can't tank this year because they don't have their pick. I don't know if they could tank next year because they're not sure if they have their pick or not. They might not be able to take the year after that because they got this fucking freak from our organization stealing stuff, and they might be
Which is
penalized.
insane, by the way.
How are you going to do all that to
Absolutely
be the
insane.
10th seed?
That's fucking
Hey, first
sick,
of all, he did that like 2 months ago. We haven't seen the results of it yet, and we never will.
Okay, valid.
But beyond that, like you don't know what kind of picks you're gonna have because this year's pick it's been traded and it's protected. Then the protection backup is next year. And then after that, dude, I don't know. Mr. Azotam may have done a little funny. And when is the next time that you can safely like blow it up and be like, all right, everyone get the fuck out of here. We need to do this like now. Because they're all about to leave, man. I don't want to be there. And I'm not there. How do you think Pascal feels? This dude is trading like I think among like every player in the NBA, he created like top 15 most open 3-point looks in the entire NBA. And I think out of those 15 players, his teammates shot the worst on those looks. Stinks if you're there and you're a star. It probably stinks if you're a role player. I'm not like, dude, Brady Dick can shoot. That's cool, I guess. But I don't know, man. Like they have the Gary Trent Jr. thing and the OG Anunoby thing and the Fred VanVleet thing's already over. And man, what an L. You lost that guy for nothing. Like, and Pascal is like, dude, I wouldn't want to be him right now. That sounds awful. It's they might lose him for nothing. They might lose everyone for nothing, and then not have their pick. Like, what is going to happen then?
I
Yeah, treading water.
I have
Right
I
now.
have
This is like the worst case of treading water I've ever seen. We just talked about the Hawks for like 10 minutes. Like it's,
I have
it's so
three
frustrating.
things to say. I have three things to say, and then we can move on to another Mid-Eastern Conference team. Number one, they did the most Toronto Raptors thing ever. And Nick Nurse left. It was like a mutual parting of ways. And they hired a guy who no one has ever heard of and no one knows anything about. I don't even remember his last name. Darko something. He was on Taylor Jenkins' staff. No one knows anything about this guy or what he's good at. But he is an unknown and might be crazy good. So they did the Raptors thing. And then number 2 and number 3, I'll get off pretty quick. OG Anunoby, you are a Memphis Grizzly, and Pascal Siakam, you are a Sacramento King.
Oh my goodness.
And now for the Bulls.
Oh Jesus Christ!
So
Yeah,
This
is it just
conference
me?
is killer,
Is it
bro.
just me? Is this tier of the East just so much more painful than this tier in the West? When you get to the West, it's like, dude, the Pelicans are yo, the Thunder, fuck yeah, dude, I love the Thunder. Hey,
It is
man, even
so
the
much
Mavericks,
less
Luka
fun over
Doncic should
here,
get
bro.
here, and it's just
It's so much less fun.
So I
It's-
just want to say something. I wouldn't consider myself a particularly religious person, but as someone who grew up in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is directly in between Milwaukee and Chicago, I wake up every day to the morning sun, and I thank God. I drop to my knees and I thank God that I did not grow up as a fan of a Jerry Reinsdorf owned team. It is just
oh my god.
it's got to be a lot, man. Like I wouldn't
It's a lot, I'm sure.
just picture the worst guy who you know in your head, just someone you hate more than anyone. It could be someone from high school or something. Just imagine that guy. I just wouldn't even want him to be a Bulls fan and just experience this. You went through this, and I mean, just because of the proximity, they've always been like a secondary like fandom for me. I have a Bulls debit card. I rep a little bit.
Bulls debit card.
Debit card is not.
They didn't have bucks, so yeah, it's all good. But like,
And it's because the Bulls don't deserve credit.
Cook. And
Yo.
I think, let me read this verbatim. This core has been expired and spoiling in the fridge since the Lonzo Ball injury.
Oh my god.
It's just so, bro. How are there so many mid teams in this conference?
Dude, it's tough.
I don't
over
understand.
Here, man.
It's just
Dude, Alex Caruso's really cool though. You gotta admit that.
Alex Caruso is awesome. Zach LaVine is awesome. DeMar DeRozan is pretty cool, but a little bit less awesome than Zach LaVine. Kobe White took some really nice strides this year. It was his. If you look at his, stats and stuff, it was his lowest, points per game output of his career, and that might make you think that he had a bad year. But anybody who watched, I would say I probably watched like between like 50 and 60 games of this team. Kobe White, this was probably his most impactful year as a player. And so they extended him for pretty cheap. He made some strides as a defender and as a decision maker, and so that was pretty cool. I'm going to say all the good things first. I don't know if I said that first. I'm going to say all the good things first before I rip them. Patrick Williams is cool.
Sure.
And they're playing Alex Caruso at power forward in front of him because that's
Dude, I fucking love that.
that's what they have to do.
Yeah.
Because we have...
Hey, their defense is really good with him on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
Their defense was really good in general.
maybe
Yeah,
it's
it's
time.
kind of weird.
Maybe it's time for
Billy
me
Donovan's a great coach.
maybe it's time for me to stop, talking about Nikola Vucevic as this dead weight on the defensive side of the ball.
Oh no, you can keep doing that.
Yeah, no,
because he
I'm
is that.
fucking kidding. No, it's just like I don't know why. I don't know
Oh,
why.
man.
I don't know why we're doing this. Like
Dude, he had that one really cool game against Jokic. You remember that?
we have committed. What is it now? DeMar's making like 27, I think. Zach's making like 35 or something this year, and Vooch is making 20. So we are investing upwards of $70 million into the mid three.
Oh, man.
And I just don't understand.
I seem to remember that name being attributed to a very different set of players in the past.
Who? I don't
Dude,
know.
they're going to be good. That's what that means. That's what that means. It means they're going to be good, like the Knicks.
It's just...
Oh, man.
I understand from the front office perspective that when Lonzo was here and, the vision that you had for this roster was really good. I don't think anyone was ever really looking at them, to be like a favorite in the East or anything, or to do anything crazy like go to the finals. But considering the long and strenuous rebuild that you just went through over the past, 5 seasons of being terrible, I can understand seeing that limited success and thinking, you know what, actually we do have something here and we never got to see it come to fruition, so we're going to stand pat. That is how I would have felt last season. Except Patrick Williams still has not been given any type of freedom. You picked a guy 4th overall, and he's basically been relegated as a spot-up shooter, and you're going to defend 4s. And, not that his skill set is anything crazy, but he hasn't really gotten to try and do anything else because he's been pigeonholed into this very specific role ever since he got drafted here. Ayo Dosunmu was really cool as a rookie, and he kind of took a step back this year. They have finally addressed the three-point shooting issues by adding Javon Carter and Torrey Craig, who both really fit what they want to do. For the last couple seasons, this team has been really low-volume three-point attempt, low-volume three-point percentage.
Low West volume 3-point attempts.
Right, and they added guys who, in Javon Carter, will take unassisted off the dribble threes and will be reliable at them and reliable as a pull-up shooter and a catch-and-shoot guy. Torrey Craig is pretty knocked down in the corners and, is a big defensive wing. And so, now I like, they have made complementary acquisitions that have addressed, areas of need for them. But for what? Where is it going? Because it can't be the playoffs. So where is it going? Doubling
There's
down.
No direction. There's no passion. There's no.
Oh, man.
Doubling down on the Nikola Vucevic trade is terrible. When you look at all the players involved in this, now that I think it's finally been completed now, it is Wendell Carter Jr., who has looked damn good for the Magic.
Who is honestly the exact kind of player that this team needs. Right
Everyone they traded away is the exact player they need. Wendell Carter has looked damn good for the Magic. Daniel Gafford has been really fucking solid as a Wizard and would be a nice rim-running big who can, offer more rim protection even though he's a little bit smaller than Nikola Vucevic. Franz Wagner is incredible. He is a very good player.
He is outright better than Vooch in his second year in the NBA.
To this point, he looks like the best player in his rookie class. And
Maybe.
Jet Howard projects to be really cool. Another high-volume, skilled three-point shooter on a roster that has severely lacked that over the last few seasons. It's just bad. And to be honest, I don't really want to talk about it anymore because I might cry. This team should have been dismantled, but it wasn't, so it's a D. You guys can add whatever you like. I can't talk about it anymore. I will have
Yeah, I
nightmares.
mean
Uh,
that sounds about
we'll
right, to
see.
be honest.
I've
I
gotten
mean,
I
very
think I gave it a
emotional.
C minus. I was being nice.
I have been very emotional this episode. Good God.
Dude, yeah. Actually, you know what? No, I'll bump it down. D plus. Uh,
As you should.
let's talk about a happy team. I like happy. You guys like happy teams? Teams that are like
Yes,
cool and
bro.
fun and stuff?
This team,
Dude,
I love the Pacers.
Indiana Pacers are really. You thought I was gonna say the fucking Wizards? No way.
Eh, sorry, that
All
was
right.
a bit much.
Indiana Pacers didn't do a ton, but what they did do, great stuff. Step one, pressured a Goober franchise, Washington Wizards, into trading with them to pick the guy they wanted to pick anyway, Jarris Walker, who, I mean, I don't love him, but you know what? They do. And Pacers fans, they love him. And I think I'm like one of the lowest people out there on him, and I still think he's a really good player. So good for him. You know what? Got some more passing. You got a great defender on a team that really needs it. And I think you're really excited to have him. You have Tyrese Halliburton, your franchise player, top 30 player in the association, all-star level point guard who in his third season in the NBA, locked up forever. And it's sure it's a lot of money, but he is the franchise.
he's
He
a lot
is
of money
worth it.
He's
guy.
worth it.
Yeah, he's amazing. Like this is one of the absolute best passers in the entire league, one of the best playmakers. He's really reliable, creating his own shot. I like to see him do it with a little bit more volume this year. But again, we're talking about a dude who really elevates an offense. You got uh, Bruce Brown. Again, it was a lot of money. I'm not sure I would have given Bruce Brown that money, but hey, like if they see, like I think there's a chance he can turn into a player who deserves that much. Like he is a really, really strong player. Like he can do anything you need him to do to win a basketball game, pretty much from his position. He can shoot, he can pass, he can defend, he can rebound, he can guard up, he can guard down. Like this is a dude he plays winning hoops,
And it's
and
a lot of
now you
money,
just have
but it's
him.
a team option. Like it's two
Yeah,
years.
that
Like
too. Like
Yeah. Eh,
they've got it under control, and I mean, just in general, like they didn't do that much. They didn't have to do that much. They got their guy locked up. They made a good selection. Um, they got Oscar Tshiebwe. That's fun. You know, he could be something in this league.
Yes, sir.
Right now he's not very much, but he is like a rebounding slash rim protection specialist at 6'8", which is kind of awesome. And there's a chance that he just turned like I know Connor, you and I were talking about this beforehand. He's done a lot of training with a very similar archetype player as Bismack Biyombo, right? And if he can turn into a Bismack Biyombo type player who is, mind you, one of the better like statistical rim protectors in the league last year, if he can do that and just like be a rebound, play, finish, like block shots guy, again, something there's stuff to be excited about in Indiana. They have a young team, they have a talented team. Their star is locked up there. He loves being there. Like, I think you're really happy. I think I gave them like an A minus, and half of that alone is just you have Tyrese Halliburton, and you. A lot of owners will like try to like nickel and dime a player like that. They had him for one full season, and they're like, "You are staying here, man. You are the guy."
As
And I
they
love that.
should. And
yeah,
I'm sure you guys touched on it a little bit in the next section, but who knows? Maybe Obi Toppin has some juice for this team. Nothing,
Yeah, he
nothing,
can move without the ball. He
nothing
can do
crazy.
stuff.
But I
I
mean, he fits like his skill set complements Tyrese Halliburton like
if
fairly
there's
well.
one thing Obi Toppin can do, it's run really fast in transition and catch lobs. And Tyrese Halliburton is on record saying he loves just running and throwing people lobs in transition.
Tyrese Halliburton is one of the best pace pushing, not just guards, players in the entire league.
Yeah.
And like Obi just fits with that, and I want to get more into fit because in this call full of Bruce Brown enjoyers, I want to go out on a limb and say I might be the biggest Bruce Brown enjoyer, particularly with this team, because I'm very, very excited about what that fit can look like, just because of the things that he is good at. We have seen Bruce Brown's game evolve so much in his career from playing with the Pistons and the Nets, where he was playing a lot of power forward as a 6'4" guy, and he couldn't really shoot like that yet, and he was like setting screens and like had this nasty lethal floater, in like the
He's sick in the short roll. Like,
absolutely he can with the way that Indiana works or has worked under Rick Carlisle with Tyrese Halliburton is that everybody on the floor can be a screener, and we're going to play super fast, and we're just going to let Tyrese Halliburton fly around and create advantages with all these guard screens and stuff. And Bruce Brown is one of, if maybe not the best guard screener in the league. He is great at that, and he can pop, he can roll and make these crafty little interior passes or finish. He has a nice floater. He can play in the short roll. He is the ultimate pick and roll option as a guard setting a screen, which is crazy to have next to a guy who loves having guards set his screens. He's going to fit like a glove. This is one of those teams that I mentioned at the beginning. You can get an A as a rebuilding team. This is easily an A for me. Like between Obi, Jarris, and Bruce Brown, Oscar Tshiebwe is really cool. Like they just did everything like right, I feel.
Yeah, this is one of those teams where, and like I talked about it before, they've got a lot to build on here, and they didn't really need to do much, and the stuff they did do was good.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you get Bruce Brown, great vet, championship pedigree, does all the things you said and more. I mean, Obi Toppin, he's got his issues, but he'll catch lobs from Tyrese, and it's gonna look really cool. I can promise you that. And I mean, aside from that, like Matherin had a pretty promising rookie campaign. Like he had his problems, but I mean, the kid can score the ball, that's for sure. You hope he continues doing that. Hopefully a bit better, and maybe, learn from Tyrese how to pass a little bit. But I mean, they've got so many young guys here. Andrew Nemhard had a great season last year. Aaron Neesmith was like kind of cool. Jalen
Miles
Smith
Turner,
is
career
there.
year.
Right, we didn't even talk
Yeah,
about
I
Miles
mean, they've
Turner.
got a lot of stuff. Jordan Nwora went there
Okay,
mid-season.
don't
He had
gas it. Don't gas it.
okay. He had a great stretch of games.
Yeah, he was cool.
You
He did.
you're hoping
That's
he
true.
can build on that. I
Yep.
mean, there's a lot to look forward to here. They probably won't be a great team, but like they'll be in the play-in conversation. Maybe striking at an eighth seed, and that's a really good spot to be in.
Jordan Nwora, it was pretty crazy sitting in my computer science lecture the first few games after we traded him there, and seeing Jordan Nwora start at power forward and be the primary defender on James Harden, and it worked fairly well. That was very jarring. I just felt like I had to throw that out there. I don't want to disrespect Jordan Nwora. Shout out to him.
What a guy.
Another wrinkle we didn't even mention with Bruce Brown, by the way, this guy was like basically playing backup point guard last season. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he can really handle
play
the ball
like
too.
4 positions.
Right.
He's crazy.
He's so sick.
Man, I love that guy. Man.
What a guy.
Okay, well, let's talk about.
All right, back to being sad. Who's got it?
things we did not love. Bashir, I think this is you.
Yeah. The Washington Wizards. I don't know. We talked about it on draft day, or on the draft episode. I mean, the Wizards thing is just like it sucks, man. Like you have Bradley Beal, who's like pretty much the only thing to look forward to every night as a Washington fan. He's gone for really not much, to be honest. It's a pretty tough scene.
We got Jordan Poole now.
But yeah, I mean, like, kind of related to that, they swing him for Chris Paul and swing Chris Paul for Jordan Poole, who is very cool, and that's a win, honestly. But I mean, aside from that, they're re-signing Kyle Kuzma, who already, was kind of chucking pretty hard. He had a good year defensively, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I don't know. That's tough. Losing KP, not getting a ton of value back on that.
Shout out to
this
Jones.
this Wizards team is kind of fully in their tank spot here with Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma captaining things. They draft Bilal 7th overall. We've talked about it. I think it's way over his stock. And I mean, their other acquisitions really, it's not much to look at. Like, this is really, Jordan, go out there, do some hoop shit, look cool, and we're gonna win, like, maybe 20 games. And it's
17. That's my prediction.
And I don't want to harp.
It doesn't even. I mean, it's not even gonna be like a fun 20 games. Like it's just gonna be tough, man.
I will watch for Jordan Poole. I watch for Tyus Jones. because I like both of those guys. I might even watch for a little bit of Daniel Gafford, because Daniel Gafford's pretty cool. There's just nothing there, and we talked about this in the draft episode too. When you're in a spot like this where you're blowing up your team, and there's, like I said, other than those 3 players, the roster is pretty devoid of long-term, like, explosive talent. I understand the allure of wanting to take this unknown guy with a ton of, projected, maybe, upside, and you might get something really crazy. But also, when you don't have anything there, you need to just take guaranteed, like, good basketball players. Jarris Walker was right there, and you can say what you want about some of his deficiencies, but Jarris Walker is pretty inarguably an above-average basketball player for a rookie.
He has tangible basketball skills.
He is a skilled player who
stands.
has a real talent, and it's not to say Bilal doesn't have any talent, but again, we talked about this, so I don't want to harp on it too much, but like, the sheer volume of skills that he will have to learn, not just to become, if they're going to project him, try and make him like a star or something, or like a featured guy, the volume of skills he has to learn just to be like playable, like on the floor when they really start trying to get serious again, is massive. And so I feel like they really messed up their first draft after they finally hit the reset button that was long overdue. It's just not a good start. I gave it a D+. It was exciting to see that they were finally going to trade Bradley Beal, and I'm just really disappointed by what they did with it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that I wasn't as harsh just because they were hard pressed to get any assets from the KP thing because he had a player option, right? And he said like, if you don't trade me, I'm opting out of this bitch and just leaving. So good luck. It's whew, man. They've You know what? I know that they didn't do great as a rebuilding team as far as like our off-season grades go. But you know what? They're going to get a lot of practice, man. They will. They're going to get. They will be experts in a couple of years, I hope, because oh boy, this team's going to be in the cellar. Oh man.
Yeah. I will say, if you were to get like one single player out of the Bradley Beal thing, getting Jordan Poole isn't so bad. So,
It could be much worse. They could have Chris
They
Paul.
could have done. They could have done a lot worse.
I'm not
Yeah.
upset with the return from the KP and the Bradley Beal thing, just because, like you said, KP could have just opted out and left. He decided to opt in and get traded.
Tough.
Bradley Beal had a no trade clause, which is also their fault, and giving him that contract with an NTC is also some pretty fireable offense. But well, actually, that guy did.
I mean, they did get fired.
He got fired.
Sure.
Yeah,
he got fired. Like, so. I don't blame them for the return on it. I think it could have been much worse, especially if they had just ended up with Chris Paul and then bought him out. That would have been pretty unfortunate.
Oh boy, that's a real movie.
So I'm not mad at the return they got from that. It feels like they needed to get some very like tangible talent in this draft, and they most certainly did not do that. Cam Whitmore was there too. Like, if you want to. Maybe you don't like Jarris Walker as much. Cam Whitmore is right there.
Beautiful.
Tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
All right, let's talk about a fun little rebuilding team. You guys think the Magic could maybe make the play-in this year?
I think the Magic are one of those league pass teams you were talking about. I think they've got something really cool cooking up in Orlando right now, man.
They were
We
already.
gotta diversify this word choice, man. We all three of us have said "cool" is 50 times.
I'm gonna say they're cool. Like, they were already one of my league passes team last year. I watched probably a lot more Orlando Magic games than people think. I'm a big Franz Wagner fan. Paolo is nice. Is that fine with you?
I love it.
I mean, he's the rookie of the year, averaged 20 points per game.
Right.
He's gonna be good, and you hope maybe his sophomore campaign isn't too hard. We know a lot of guys struggle with that, but I mean, they've got a lot of great stuff going on. Markel, he's been for what it is and for everything that's happened in his career, he's been, pretty great for them when he's healthy. Short of the outside shooting, he does everything else very well. Suggs, for how much I've, talked poorly about Jalen Suggs in the past, he was certainly better. I mean, he would have been hard pressed to have been worse, quite frankly, but he was better. You hope he comes along. Wendell Carter's great. Franz Wagner's great. Paolo, he's as a rookie, he's great. We talked about them on draft night on the draft episode, but Jet Howard, Anthony Black, they've got upside in different areas. Cole Anthony, he wore Tim's in the dunk contest. I don't know much about Cole
Okay.
Anthony, to be honest, but
He did do
yeah,
that.
I mean,
I don't take this the wrong way. I will elaborate more on what I mean in a second. I feel like I am forced to like this team, mostly because I just Googled this. I didn't know what it was before. Because the Orlando Magic mascot stuffed the Magic Dragon in the 2020-2021 season, came to the United Center and shot Benny the Bull in the chest several times with a handgun, and took every single player that ever mattered or will matter to the Bulls team. So I think I can kind of vicariously pretend, occasionally it's a little embarrassing to admit, I will watch a Magic game and I will change the hue on my monitor so that their blue uniforms are red, and I will pretend that they're in the United Center, and that I'm watching the Bulls. And so,
Oh man.
no, they were cool, man. I think Anthony Black was a little high. Jet Howard's cool, though. The Joe Ingles contract was incredibly random, but shout out to Joe.
Yeah.
He's a good vet. He's fried as a defender, but, we talked about him earlier. He's a great shooter and, a really good ball handler, and he's going to be a cool vet there for them. I'm happy
They're like,
he gets to maybe retire on the beach.
I felt forced to give them like kind of a lower grade just because, and I don't think it has anything to do with their trajectory really. Um, I wasn't a super fan of either of their draft selections. I think both AB and Jet could have gone lower. To
Yeah.
be realistic, I think it was like not the greatest value or fit in both cases, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, they're just so ahead of the rebuild. Like when their guys were all like healthy and clicking last year, they were like only a mildly below average team. Like it was like a minus 1.4 net rating with all their dudes, which is like totally where you would want to be considering how awful they were the years before. Paolo as I don't know how much I loved his impact year one, but it doesn't matter because he is so obviously going to become a star in this league. I feel like Franz is really well on the way. Yeah, dude. Hell yeah, go Magic. They're gonna be exciting. They're gonna be
yeah.
good. Then they're gonna be fun. It's something to watch out for.
One of those
I'm really
didn't
happy for
do
them.
a ton but didn't need to type teams,
No, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I mean, I
why
gave them like
I'm
a
not.
C plus or something
That's
because I just didn't love the draft. That's it.
That's why I'm not the most upset about their draft. I definitely agree with you. Both of the picks were a little high, and Anthony Black, I mean, you could have taken anyone instead of him, and Jet Howard. We pretty much unanimously agree that like Grady Dick is better than him.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, the reason I'm just not super, I guess, pressed about their draft is a lot of their improvement is going to come internally with this group, and there are really some like nice like things to like there. If you were gonna
yeah.
if you were gonna project who's gonna be really good in a few seasons, Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero are certainly on the shortest of short lists.
for sure.
Speaking of teams relying on internal
Th-
improvement,
this
Oh,
is a team. This is one of the teams in the
Christ.
league.
oh man, the Charlotte Hornets. I mean,
I will go last on this. You guys both say
oh yeah,
everything
you
that
can
you
go
want to
last.
say before I go.
I mean, hey, it could be worse, right? I mean, you get the second pick overall in the draft. Um, and I mean, you get wait a second, I just got you guys know
Oh man,
with the second pick overall in the NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets didn't take Scoot Henderson. Isn't that weird?
we
I
have
feel
had
like
a lot of bits tonight.
I feel like they should have done that.
Oh man.
Also, did you guys that like Miles Bridges is on their team again? Dude, that's wow, what a
Yeah, well,
time.
yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
dude, I don't know. Like the Scoot thing, I I understand Brandon Miller is a special talent shooting the ball. I went over it. I think they should have taken Scoot. I think a lot of us just generally, not in this podcast, but in this
In our
metaphysical realm,
basketball space,
think,
yeah.
yeah, think that they should have taken Scoot. I actually don't really mind what they did with the rest of the picks. Like, I'm on record saying I think Nick Smith Jr. was like just flat out not good at the ball and hoop sport his freshman year at Arkansas. But the thing is, you watch him, and the wiggle is like really there. Like, it feels like he is like pretty close to being a basketball player who's good at stuff, and it's just a matter of it clicking, like the shot making most notably. Like, but he is like kind of a really fascinating athlete. Like, I think if you can harness that in him, then he could be like a contributor. Amari Bailey, I was really impressed with too, especially like the
Amari
back
Bailey
half of the
is
season.
genuinely good,
Dude,
especially for where they got him.
I loved what they saw or what I saw from him at UCLA like the last like 2 months of the season, especially on defense. I think he was an outstanding contributor. Like, I was really kind of surprised that he wasn't going a little bit higher than he fell 41. And hey, I think that's a real guy that you could invest stuff in and feel good about. They lost Dennis Smith Jr. That stinks. They lost Kelly Oubre Jr. I don't feel as bad about that one,
That
honestly,
doesn't stink.
But
considering the money that he's trying to command right now.
you can live without
Um,
him, but I do feel a little. I feel some type of way about it just because it's another situation like the Wizards where like you don't have anything there, and I don't. Not that I wanted them to like overpay him for what he's reportedly asking for, but like you don't have anything there. So okay, you let him walk. Now what?
you can't really do that much with the money that you save besides extend an offer to Miles Bridges. Um, and that's look,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, dude. It's the last year he played, he was the second best player on the team. I'll say that. He had a nice little synergy with LaMelo on offense. On defense, it wasn't quite there, but he was, he's an athlete. I don't know if this is the move for you as the Charlotte Hornets, just from a basketball perspective, because I don't really think he's that great to and then just also like this is a pending PR nightmare. There's just so much going on here,
And so
man.
so let's just
I
address
don't know.
that at
Yeah,
one time, and then let's not talk about it anymore because I'm just tired of talking about it. Because
that's fine.
there's really only one perspective I think that you should have about this, and it's pretty much that this is morally a pretty bankrupt thing to do for this organization.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to pay Kelly Oubre and you want to let him walk because you don't want to pay him that money and you're okay with losing that talent even though you have nothing there. But you are going to bring back Miles Bridges, who is documented, on camera doing some pretty vile things, and I just think it's really disgusting. And before all that happened, he was a player whose game I actually liked, and I thought him and LaMelo were a pretty fun duo, even if they weren't that good. I thought it was just fun to watch them play together. And, I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to watch this team while he's on it. I will watch Brandon Miller. I will watch every Brandon Miller possession. I will not watch this team while he's on it. I don't really care if that sounds pretentious. It's just nasty. And that's all I have left to say about it.
You're not gonna miss out on too much. I can't lie.
No, I won't. But that's all I have to say about this team. I'm not going to speak on it any further. It just had to be addressed.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of went over the draft stuff on on that episode. You talked about Nick Smith with the wiggle. He certainly has the wiggle. He does not have basketball skills in pretty much any other area. But I will say he was a top high school prospect. Getting him at 27 is like whatever, like sure, fine, not a big deal. Amari Bailey at 41 is great value. Brandon Miller's Brandon Miller. You took him over Scoot, live with it. Other than that, not really much. They re-signed LaMelo. That's great for them. He's gonna be there forever. You hope he becomes that high all-star, all NBA level talent that you know that he shows flashes of being at times. Losing out on Kelly Oubre is kind of whatever thing to me. I mean, Kelly Oubre is not really that good, and he's asking for a lot of money, I presume, which is why he doesn't have a job. Uh, Dennis Smith was really cool for them, but in the grand scheme of things, he's not like a long-term contributor especially not in a rebuild. And yeah, I mean that's about it for the Hornets. We can move on, I think.
Yeah, this is you, the Pistons.
Ah, right.
Something
Detroit.
I am much more excited to talk about.
Detroit
Yeah.
basketball. Yeah, I mean, this is to me the Pistons get a passing grade from me. This is like another like you got a young team, don't fuck it up, kind of thing. They drafted Asar Thompson at 5, didn't fuck that up. He should be good, I would imagine. They pick up Monte Morris and Joe Harris, who I think are pretty solid vets. Monte especially, they really, really needed a kind of floor general type guy with these young guys to, keep everyone in check. Cade, obviously, while he's been on the floor, has sort of struggled with keeping everything under control. So I think Monte's going to help with that. Joe Harris shoots the ball really well. That's kind of the beginning and end of Joe Harris. Yeah, I mean, it's a passing grade for me. They didn't really do a ton. I liked what they did do. They drafted who I think is the right guy. Didn't lose out on anyone of much value that they could have gotten value out of. So, I mean, I'm fine with the Pistons. They're still going to be bad. So,
I think the only thing I have, my only little caveat is I don't love the Marcus Sasser pick when they took him. I think he could have gotten better, but other than that, yeah, Sar's the one for them. He like the Jaden Ivey project looked really, really stellar, honestly, the last couple months of the season. I hope Cade gets well soon. That's going to be really exciting too. And they've got nowhere to look but up. I think they didn't need to do that much. They hit on their primary first round pick, or it looks like it'll be a hit, just like fit wise and skill set wise, and that's all you can ask for. Oh, wait, no, yes, Monty Williams,
Absolutely.
big deal. Monty Williams, that's one of the most important coaching hires as well, because Monty Williams is known more than anything for being someone who is really good at helping players come along, get out of their shells. He's just like a great dude as well. Like everyone seems to love him. I think he's one of the better coaches in the league. It's not Dwayne Casey. It's just in
everyone
general.
except one guy in particular
We both
seems to
started
love Monty
smiling, and I
Williams.
was like, we have to be smiling at the DeAndre Ayton thing.
Yeah.
Oh man, hey,
Other than that,
I'll forget
great
that.
track
that
record.
that guy's just playing
Dude,
Call
no,
of Duty, bro. He doesn't know what's
no,
happening.
Monty Williams is a chill ass guy. He's going to be a good coach for them, and I think that's a great environment now. And now that he's there, I think Detroit is like a place that like young players are going to have fun being. Like I think
Yeah,
before it was a little depressing, but I think bringing in a coach who has success, not only as like someone who like wins games, but also like can manage personalities besides the one, um, is like I think you're really happy with that. I really enjoy this little culture that they're building in Detroit. I think Asar is going to fit perfectly. He's a real gamer. Like they're they're gonna cook. They're gonna be a really exciting like 27-win team. They'll be back in the lottery and they'll get another guy and then they'll really be on their way.
yeah. I mean,
That's what
when
I
you
hope for.
they're in the perfect stage of this rebuild where they could have hired Monty Williams. Now you finally have, I would say, 4 players who you really care about in Cade, Ivy, Asar, and Jalen Duren. It's a really nice, starting point, and you brought in the guy who took the Suns from the lottery to the finals in one season, got them the most wins in franchise history, and is really just an excellent and heralded basketball mind, and like you said, like personality manager and player coach. It's just a great move, and I mean, people were freaking out. I don't know why people were freaking out about how much money he got. Like
Yeah, there's no cap for coaches. Who
well, he's
cares?
a head coach. Like I'll pay him fucking I don't know, give him the Little Caesars Arena, whatever that's worth. Like if that means he comes here. Like pay him everything. Like it was just good. And I like that you brought up Monte Morris and Joe Harris. My biggest criticism of the Rockets the last few years is that the whole team is basically just full of a bunch of young guys all trying to figure it out at the same time, and a lot of teams do that. A lot of teams make that mistake in the first year or two of the rebuild, and the Pistons were kind of doing that for a while. Like, hey man, your vet is Corey Joseph. No disrespect to him, but I really liked that. You know, I'm a big fan of organizations when you have a young core like that, bringing in role players who complement them. I think there's value in that, even if you're not competing for anything really. I think there's a lot of value in having some guys on the floor who have done this for a while and know what they're doing, and you know can kind of mentor them and teach the young guys how to play better on and off the court. I mean, Monte Morris especially, like, you know, we talked about Tyus Jones probably the last 2 seasons being the best backup point guard in basketball. Before he came into his own, it was really Monte Morris. And he's just a good high IQ, same mold as Tyus Jones, high IQ, low mistakes, low turnovers guy. He consistently has one of the lowest assist to turnover ratios in the league.
Highest assist.
Or, yeah, sorry, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, gets a lot of assists, does not turn the ball over really. Just really quality acquisitions for role players. They still have Alec Burks there, who's cool. Just solid, just a really solid. I gave them an A just because they brought in some quality role players who can, you know, be vets and mentors to these guys. Asar is a great pick and he fits really well. You know, the Isaiah Stewart extension exists. That is certainly one of the contracts of all time. But you know, he's on the team now. He's staying on the team. And Monty Williams, I can't say enough good things about, you know, bringing in a guy like him at this point of your rebuild. It's really solid work that they're doing over there after a couple years where there really wasn't anything there.
Hell yeah.
For sure.
I think that
Very
is
good.
wraps then.
Yeah, I think we got a wrap on the off-season wrap-up.
Awesome.
Oh boy.
So remember, this was part 2. If you missed part 1, the Western Conference breakdown, that should already be up on the channel by now. Make sure to go check that out. I'm sure there will be some shorts picked from that too. If you're not watching our YouTube shorts, go check those out, like them. We are also on TikTok. You will find that on our channel page. You know, like, share, subscribe, everything, all that. Nothing really else to say. I think our next episode is going to be we're doing the standings and the awards predictions.
Standing predictions.
I
Yep.
believe so.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
So I'm gonna tell you why your favorite team is gonna be shit or really good. So just tune in for that, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. But thank you so much for watching this episode. Hopefully both of these episodes, and we will see you guys next time. Have a good one.
Peace out.